Hello and welcome. I just wanted to do a little preamble to explain that this particular video comes in the context of a visit to Stonehenge. And so I'm going to begin it with a clip of a time lapse that I took on the night, and we'll finish it for those of you who managed to make it to the end of this little discussion. We will finish it with I think a couple of my favourite stills from the night, which I was really quite pleased with, given that the conditions weren't exceptional. But I think I've come up with what is actually one or two quite nice photographs. So do stay for those at the end, or just skip to them if you want to miss all of the discussion. The other thing I wanted to say is, please do let me know in your comments what you think about this particular discussion, this debate about whether or not photography is art. And if you've got any examples of things that add to the debate, I'd love to hear from you as well. You'll see what my view is. And the other thing though that I did want to say is, although I make the case that photography is art, I also want to say not all photography is art. I'm very well aware of that. I can pick up a paintbrush and I can put some random strokes on a piece of canvas, but it's never going to be art. And I think the same is true of photography. Not everybody has that creative artistic streak within them that they express in that particular way. Okay, let's get on with the video. Well, good evening, folks. You find me at Stonehenge. This is going to be quite a brief video, this one. Largely because when I got to Stonehenge, it was naturally full of people. So talking to camera, for me at least, wasn't particularly an option there. Just didn't feel right. Anyway, it was an interesting evening. Not because of the photography particularly, but once again, because of the people that I met. And that's been a bit of a theme recently, is how our photography brings us into contact with other people. It depends obviously where you are, but here at Stonehenge, there are lots of people about. So conversations were had. And if you're in any one place for long enough with interesting equipment, people will talk with you. Now, I was very pleased to meet a chap called Nick from Stonehenge Dronescapes. I hope I've got that right. Anyway, he does a lot of stuff in terms of night sky imagery on Facebook and is very competent at it. So I had a great chat with him. So big shout out for him there. And thanks for spending a bit of time with me. Really appreciated that. The two of us got chatting with someone else. Now, this gentleman of foreign descent, I can't say what country he came from. I didn't ask him that, and I'm ashamed to say I didn't ask his name either, but lovely guy. And he struck up a conversation with us about whether or not photography is art, on the basis that well, it's not a classical art like painting or poetry, for example, writing, the dramatic arts, and I said I had to disagree, really, and he asked me why that was, and because I think his case was, well, with a camera, all you have to do is point it at the subject and press the shutter. And so I explained to him, actually, that really isn't the case. There's a lot of creativity involved. particularly if you're a more accomplished photographer and a more experienced photographer. There is so much to learn, particularly in terms of things like composition, for example. But it's not just what you do in camera now, in the days of digital photography. It's also what you do, especially in post-production on the computer, with the likes of Lightroom, for example, or Photoshop. Now, but there is more to it than that, and at this point our friend wasn't convinced still, really. I did explain that, well, I'm also a musician and I sing as well, and I explained to him that I think I'm actually more creative with my photography than I am with my guitar and my voice when I come to sing. And so I used a couple of examples of shots that I had taken, and in particular I'll show it up now on screen. I showed him a shot of something that I'd taken in the New Forest last winter. So I'd gone out to the New Forest to take a particular a shot of a particular tree that I was hoping was going to be in the fog. So we'd had fog forecast, it didn't happen. But as I was en route to this tree, I walked past a tyre rut that had frozen. The water in it had frozen. Because of the flint within the tyre rut, the flint stones, it had caused the water to freeze in a very particular way, with some really wonderful curves within it, and there were rocks showing up, peeking up out of the ice. And so I explained to a friend that most people would probably have just walked past this frozen puddle, or if they'd had taken a picture of it, they'd have taken a very different picture. Now, part of the art of photography is being able to pre-visualize a shot and knowing what you can do with what pieces of equipment. And as I looked at this, I immediately thought, I know exactly what I need to do with this. I need to get out my widest lens that I have. I need to get really, really low down to the ground, and I need to get very close to this tyre rut, to this puddle, this frozen puddle. And that if I do that, I know what it's going to look like. It's going to fill the frame with the puddle, and everything else in the background is going to become secondary. But because I'm shooting with such a wide angle, it's going to look unusual. I also had an idea of how I would post-process this image as well. And by the time I'd finished explaining this process of pre-visualization, of knowing what you want the picture to look like, then knowing how you need to get your camera in the right position and what equipment you need to use in order to get the basic image that you were looking for, and then to be able to translate that in post-production into what you had anticipated. By the time that I'd finished explaining all of this, our friend said, "Do you know, I really didn't think until today that it could be considered art, but you have convinced me." And I can't tell you how delighted I am about that, because honestly, I believe it is an art. It's one of the reasons why I spend so much time on it. I love what I do with my camera. It is a way in which I express myself. And if you're watching my videos, and you've been doing so for a while, then I suspect you probably feel the same way, and you've got some kind of understanding of what it is that I'm talking about. So once again, here's that particular shot that managed to convince this lovely gentleman of what it was that I was talking about and why I think photography is art. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you again in the next tape. Bye for now.